Good evening, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Um, yeah, big news today. I didn't expect to get the news that quick. I don't know if anybody else did, but I sure didn't expect to get the news that quick regarding the identification of those remains. Um, Very interesting. Now, um, before I get started, I just want to go ahead and I want to inform everyone in chat. Okay. I want you all very, 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 very lovingly make cherry emojis and blast the chat with cherry emojis because today is Cherry Appreciation Day. It is just Cherry Appreciation Day. No particular reason whatsoever at all. It's this that she is the greatest mod on the planet and she virtually runs me virtually, like online. It's all her. Okay, so it's Cherry Appreciation Day. Everybody blast cherry emojis in the chat for me. Oh, you guys are the best. You guys are awesome. Well, I love you, and everybody here in the chat loves you, Cherry. We all love you very, very much. so, so yes, we do. We do. Absolutely. We do. Look how much everybody loves you. So so anyway, yeah, so it has been confirmed that the remains found in the Carlton Reserve, coincidentally, the very day that Brian's parents decided to go out there and help with the search, lo and behold, they find backpack, notebook, some bones. I guess bones or skull. I'm guessing a skull with teeth. Uh, and yeah, I'm quite certain that is. I'm quite certain that that is all the confirmation that we need. We have an FBI press release, which I'll go ahead and read real quick. If I can. Here we go. Okay, so human remains found at the Carlton Reserve confirmed as those of Brian Laundrie. Denver, Colorado, on October 21st, 2021, a comparison of dental records confirmed that the human remains found at the T. Mallory Carlton Jr. Memorial Reserve and the Myakkahatchee Creek Environmental Park are those of Brian Laundrie. The FBI is grateful for the tremendous investigative support from our partners, Northport Police Department, Sarasota Police Department, Jackson Police Department, Charlotte County Sheriff's Office, Lee County Sheriff's Office, Sarasota County Sheriff's Office, Teton County Sheriff's Office, Teton County Search and Rescue, the Florida Wildlife Commission, the National Park Service, and the U.S. Forest Service. So that is the official statement coming from the FBI. And that is, as far as I'm concerned, all the confirmation we need. A lot of people don't want to accept it. I have people in my own Discord that are like, no, I don't believe it. I don't believe it's him. With wild theories, too. Crazy wild theories. And I don't want to dismiss them as crazy. They're not, but definitely some wild theories where, the parents planted the teeth or whatever. And I mean, really? Come on. And it's not just people in my Discord, it's people all over the internet. And I get it, and I understand why. Um, we don't want to believe it. We all wanted him to face justice and have to answer for his crimes. Now, if you are a spiritual person, then you probably believe that he is answering for them right now. And the thing is this goes back to where I did a live stream a few nights ago where I discussed the Ruchek family, who are the family of Shanann Watts. Obviously, the pregnant woman who was the victim in the Watts murder, who was one of the victims, along with her two small children. And the thing is the point I was making then is going to be the same point I'm making now. It's not us that he owes justice to. It is the Petitos and it is the Schmitz that he owes justice to. So far that I know of, there has not been a public statement made by either the Schmitz or the Petitos. I'm guessing that they would have a spokesperson make a statement at some point. But I do believe, but even though this is not the closure that we all ideally wanted, nevertheless, it is closure to some degree. It is not absolute closure. There are still answers that need to be given. And I believe that Brian Laundrie's parents, Roberta and Christopher Laundrie, have those answers, or at least some. And a lot of people, and I want to get this out of the way real quick too, because I think that a lot of people are feeling like, well, you know, and I know some people feel this way. I know that there's some folks that feel as though that the public are being too harsh on the Laundrie family. Now, as far as Cassie Laundrie, I don't know. I'm not ready to necessarily include her in that, but I don't have a whole lot of sympathy for Christopher and Roberta right now, because they seem to show absolutely no sympathy for the Petitos or the Schmitz. And so that's me personally. You know, I'm not going to tell you what to do. I'm not going to tell you how to feel. I'm not going to tell you whether or not you should feel empathy or sympathy for anybody, or who you should or shouldn't feel empathy or sympathy for. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to tell you that I personally don't. I don't. Now, I know empathy is in my name. I get it. It's something that I definitely try to practice. It's definitely something that I try to make a point to focus a lot of my energy on. But the thing is I just don't have that right now for Christopher and Roberta. I just don't. I have it for Cassie to a certain degree, even though she, you know, I mean, it's still her brother, even though she mentioned that they were estranged to a certain degree. But I do believe that that she, you know, most likely misses her brother and is saddened by this. And I'm sure that her parents are too. But the thing is they didn't show any sympathy or empathy at all in their actions for the Schmitz or the Petitos. So, I mean, you know, for those of you who've been following this this channel that dabbles in real crime, for those of you who have been following this channel, you know that I believe in justice, no matter what that justice is. It's not for me to have an emotional response as to how that justice shows itself. That is up to the family of the victim, and that victim being Gabby, and her family are the only ones that in my opinion, get to dictate. Now it's Cherry K's day, and I realize that she's a little upset and over the news of everything that's happened, because I know she wanted justice a certain way. So she's typing typos in the chat, unfortunately. So, and being overwhelmed with all the love that we've been giving her, she meant to say real crime. So I just wanted to, please excuse Cherry. What's up, Anda? Please excuse Cherry and her typos in the chat, okay? Because it's real crime. It's real crime. So so anyway, yeah. I mean, there's still some unanswered questions here that I think are happening, and I think it's really important that we realize that we're not at the end of this just yet, because there are questions that I have still. There are questions that I have still regarding the Laundries and their participation in all of this, because if I'm understanding correctly, now, obviously, we don't have any official statements from Leo. Back up, buddy. We don't have any official statements from law enforcement as far as the condition, as far as I know, but as far as the condition of Brian's remains that were found. I'm hearing rumors that they were just bones, that they just got to the point that they were bones. So that's a lot of time, I'd say, that he has been unalive. And I'm just, that raises questions to me. I mean, if you remember going back when Christopher and Roberta first reported Brian missing, they seem to have done it in a concern for his life. Now, we still don't have a cause of death, so a lot of people are just assuming that it is that he unalived himself. Now, that's a pretty safe assumption, because I'm kind of going there too. Now I'm hoping, honestly, and judge me if you want, but I'm hoping that it wasn't like that. I'm hoping that it was the elements of the Carlton Reserve that ended up being the cause of his demise, whether it be an alligator, whether it be a Florida panther, whether it be a poisonous snake bite, whatever. I'll take it. It's got a freaking bow on it. I'll take it. Because the way that this guy, now, I would still, this is the thing, is I would still have some empathy for this guy if he had just turned himself in, if he had taken some responsibility. I would have even hoped that the judge would have given him some leniency. I would have even gone that far. I know a lot of you wouldn't agree with me on that, but I would have gone that far to actually hope that the judge would have shown some leniency. Had he taken some accountability, had he turned himself in, had he, instead of YouTubers accidentally stumbling onto her body, I would have rather that he would have came forward and actually took some accountability and led law enforcement to where her body was located. But they did nothing. The Laundries did absolutely nothing to make this process easier for the Petitos or the Schmitz. They did absolutely nothing, despite all of everything. And everybody's like, oh, what was it? The lawyer, I don't have it here in front of me, but the Laundrie's lawyer even made a statement at some point saying something to the effect of, oh, the Laundries are going through so much, and it's wrong that they're going through all this with all of the protesting going on in front of their house, and somebody's suing them when it was probably them that littered, but they're suing them over the sign. Well, the reason why all that is, don't let this lawyer fool you as to why all this is taking place. The whole point of it is to put as much pressure on them as possible in order to provide answers that we all truly, with common sense, believe that they have. It is naive, to say the least, that to think that they don't have any answers. It is naive, to say the least, to think that Brian did not at some point tell them in detail, or at least in some detail, what happened to Gabby. What were the circumstances of what took place? So, and I think that the Petitos and the Schmidts have every right to some of those details in order to maybe they don't want to know. Maybe they consider it to be morbid. I don't know. I don't know what I would want to know in that situation, honestly, if it was my little girl. I honestly don't know where I would be in my head on that. So, I think that he did. And I don't think it's a question of testicular fortitude as far as this particular thing goes that you're talking about, Louisiana girl. I think that he did. I think that it was the opposite of having testicular fortitude and just wanting to come clean about what he was doing to mommy and daddy, hoping that they'll bail him out of it. Otherwise, it's possible that they could have just been like, okay, we're big fans of plausible deniability, so don't tell us anything. We're just going to get you a lawyer, and that's it. But the reason why I don't feel that took place is since they reported him missing and they were supposedly afraid of this outcome that we have confirmation of today, well, why at no point did they make a public statement themselves? Why didn't they get in front of a bunch of news cameras and say, Brian, we can face this together, whatever is going on, please don't do anything that would hurt yourself. Please don't do anything like that. We love you. Please come home and we'll figure this out. We'll work it out. It's almost as if it's almost is even too weak of a word. I would say it's a lot like they encouraged this outcome, that they facilitated this outcome, that they enabled this outcome. This is what I've been saying. The safest place that Brian Laundrie could have been this entire time was in police custody. And now we have the proof. I have been saying this since this started. The safest place for Brian Laundrie to have been this entire time was in law enforcement's custody. And now we have confirmation of that fact because he is no longer with us. He is no longer alive. What's up, Mexi? It's good to see you, buddy. He's no longer alive. And at no point did they publicly encourage him. Hey, Brian, we love you. If you hear this, if somehow you see or hear this message, please come home. We'll work it out. We'll figure out whatever we have to do to make this as easy for you as possible. But you've got to come out of hiding because we're worried about you. Mexi for the win. Yo, I bet you think Bigfoot got Brian Laundrie, don't you? Because you got to be delusional. You're one of those people, right, Veronica? Mexi for the win, right? Mexi for the win? What? Yeah, no. You gotta be delusional. You think Bigfoot got Bigfoot don't even hang out in the swamps, bro. Okay, you're talking about Swamp Thing, DC Comics. Okay, it's even more fictional than Bigfoot. Even more fictional than Bigfoot. See, Jen Perry knows what's up. Go ahead, Jen Perry. So I'm at least I'm at least a little relieved that there was this closure, right? You know, because as I've been saying, I I am relieved that there's some closure here. I would rather him have faced due process. I don't know how the parents feel about it. As if all the Schmitz and the Petitos, if they're like, you know what, we'll take it, good, whatever. If they feel that way, then that's as much as it's going to be good enough for me. Yeah. Police custody, a good lawyer, and some bail. He did have a defense, whether people like it or not. Lawyer could have spun it. So, yeah, they are partially responsible. They're absolutely responsible. They are absolutely partially responsible. Them as well as Brian's idiot attorney. That guy's an idiot. I blame him more than I blame his parents. Let's see here. B Muse, why didn't LE trail the parents today? They had every opportunity to remove items from that bag. What the actual hell? Yeah, I mean, right. Like, how are they not suspect already in this whole thing? Because the only thing that I'm thinking as far as that goes, the only explanation that can come to mind is that law enforcement knows a lot more about this investigation than we do, obviously, but you know, maybe it's something that we have not even thought of. Maybe law enforcement has information on this case that hasn't even hit any of our radars. We have to consider that possibility, folks. Yeah, like they just got a lawyer that just completely lacks any type of moral compass, which is every lawyer, but they got a lawyer that's not even specialized in criminal justice and still lack the moral compass that all lawyers have, you know? And I don't even think that all lawyers are that bad. You know what I mean? I don't like lawyers. You know, I've said it 100 times on this channel. The only lawyers I like are the ones that don't like lawyers. So, you know, this is one of those situations where this is as bad as a lawyer gets in my eyes. And by the way, guys, feel free if you came here from Dad Challenge Podcasts, feel free to roast the lawyers in the chat here as well if you like. That's all good here too. You can keep that going. Poor Josh, he had to cut it off. But yeah, that lawyer deserves all the scrutiny that he could possibly get. Oh, look at Jen Perry flip-flopping on me. That's real nice. That's good. That's real nice. I like to see real loyalty. That's great. B Muse. I get they couldn't check their bag. The park was open. They aren't suspects, but a journalist follows them and not LE. I don't know what to tell you. I mean, but that doesn't sway me from the idea that could be that's Brian Laundrie. You know, if law enforcement confirms that those are his remains, then I'm convinced that those are his remains. Period. Now, what I will acknowledge is the possibility that they took evidence, tampered with evidence, you know, left evidence. I don't know, whatever. But I mean, apparently it was just a knapsack and a notebook. And yes, a lot of people are wondering whether or not it was a notebook, like a notebook, an electronic notebook, meaning like a laptop. But I feel like they would have specified a laptop or a tablet or something of that nature. They wouldn't have said notebook. in the sense that, I mean, it's literally what I consider to be a notebook. And if it was found in the water, I find it very, 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 I think there's a very, very, very difficult chance that there's anything that's going to be legible in that notebook and recovered. So, yeah, I'm just not. I'm not seeing that at all. Um, but Muse, if there was a note, possible admission, uh, they don't want their son to go out in shame. Um, well, I mean, that's silly. I mean, not that it's not. I'm not saying that your idea is silly. I'm saying I just don't see that being the case. But I mean, as irrational as they've been behaving, then maybe that's okay. I'm warming up to it the more I think about it. Mexi here. Am I hungry? Yeah, I just had a salad. Thanks for reimbursing me that my salad that I just ate, dude. Thanks, buddy. See, Mexi's looking out. Mexi's team glare, dude. Even Mexi's team glare. I love it. That's my boy right there. And I totally did. Look at. She's putting me out there. That's not right. That's not. Keep it up. Keep it up, Cherry. You know what I'm talking about. Keep it up. Putting me out there? You putting me out there? Okay. Okay. Anyway, but yes. I cannot tell a lie. Like a like a like a like just a straight slob. I'm not even trying to lie. Like a straight slob. I took a jar of chunky peanut butter last night, and I took a spoon, and I got a big old scoop chunky peanut butter. And I took some squeezable strawberry jelly and just squeezed it over the spoonful. I squeezed it over the spoonful of the peanut butter, and I ate like maybe 4 of them, 5 tops, but like four spoonfuls of that. It's not like I killed the jar, people. Okay, don't judge me. All right, I'm losing the weight. I'm doing good. Doing good. What you mean, ew? I didn't eat the bread. What you mean, ew? Say ew. There is protein in peanut butter, but there's also carbs and fat. Lots of fat, and not the good kind of fat. So yeah, man. I mean, Louisiana girl's down 15 pounds. Well, you're not in this, so I'm just kidding. Congratulations. Mexi weighed in at the beginning like I did. Mexi's got till Thanksgiving to weigh in officially. What interview? Interview with who? What are you talking about? Well, I didn't even know about that. I would have played it. I would have streamed it. Can I get hey, good for you, Irish. I'm team Irish, bro. All right. What's up, Lisa Mack? Um, yeah, so yeah, if one of my mods can pull that, I don't even know what interview with who. What are you talking about? Listen, Lori Dozer, We don't cheat here, okay? We don't cheat. Okay, we do our weight loss legit. Okay, we don't need these performance enhancing substances. Okay, you understand? Oh, with the lawyer? Of course he was being a jerk. The guy has been a jerk this whole time. Somebody send me that link so I could play this and roast this fool. News Nation. Let me see here. Who's live here? That's a weather radar. I don't need that. I saw a weather radar. Oh, that's Nashville. I don't need that. Y'all are tripping. Let me see something here real quick. Aha. See?
More choices, more wow.
All right. Should have it here in a second. The hell? Hold on. Oh shit! I had it. Ah. Okay. Pull it up right now, guys. 1 second. Thank you, Jerry. Thank you, Lokamai.
Tonight. So our viewers understand the main reason you are representing the Laundrie family is because you have a long personal relationship with them. I understand you received that grim news
that makes sense.
Just reported. How did you find out and what exactly did you learn?
Well, yes. Good evening, Tom, and thanks for having me.
Thanks for having me.
I've known the Laundrie family for over 25 years.
I've known the Laundrie family for over 25 years.
I've seen both of his children grow up, Cassie and Brian. And I did learn of the unfortunate news that Brian's remains were confirmed today through Chris Laundrie. Chris had called me, let me know that the police had come to his house this evening to inform them that the remains were positively identified.
How were Brian's parents tonight?
Well, Tom, I don't know you if you're a parent or not, but I'm sure every parent out there knows that getting the news that your child is no longer, with you is sad under any circumstances. The fact that the Laundries have been subjected to these people out in front of their house for the last 4 weeks.
Oh, shut up.
And they continue out there today is just making it all the more difficult.
Any idea or theory how Brian may have ended his life?
You know, I don't want to speculate. I try not to do that. I would.
You see what this guy just
stop
did?
doing that as well.
You see what this guy just did? He just made the assumption that it was Brian who unalived himself. So he was trying to get him to kind of admit it. It's a pretty slick move on that journalist's part, because we don't know what the cause of death is yet. We don't know if we don't even know if it was self-inflicted. We have no idea.
Especially with respect to this.
Well, we
case,
have an idea
and with respect to the cause or how Brian is, came to be dead. I don't know, and we'll wait for if possible some type of cause of death from the experts.
Steve, I want to go back to yesterday and that big discovery. I know this is not the first time Brian's parents have aided in the search, but the Laundries did decide to go and help investigators yesterday, both parents. Explain to our viewers what exactly prompted that yesterday.
Well, I think the prompt was that the park or the Myakkahatchee Environmental Creek Park was finally open to the public. My understanding, it was either open to the public on Tuesday or Wednesday, and Chris and Roberta decided that since it was open and available to them, they wanted to go and look for Brian by themselves. After speaking with me, I told them that I wanted to notify law enforcement so that we would have no issue. And, I did text my contact at the Northport Police Department. The response I got was, "Thank you for the heads up." And the law enforcement did show up at 7 a.m. at the park entrance to meet Chris and Roberta.
What do you say to all those people out there who say this is really a strange coincidence? Both parents go out, mother and father, and then suddenly these big clues turn up, including what we now know are the remains of Brian Laundrie.
As I said to you a moment ago, I've known Brian since he was a small child. So this is hitting me today, too. I'm a little bit angry that.
Yeah, that's a good point, Denise Lorette. And thank you for the super chat. An excellent point that Denise Lorette's making here. Why didn't the parents search the 13th through the 17th? They were concerned and clearly knew exactly where to find him. They absolutely knew exactly where to find him. The first day they go out there, they know exactly where to look. They've been searching out there this whole time, right? If they knew exactly where to go, why didn't they tell law enforcement where to go? Why was he found just now today on the same day that they went out there themselves? Very strange. That's something that can't be overlooked here, guys.
That people are even speculating this way. And primarily because, it's not just the Laundries.
We're speculating because your clients suck.
Local PD, it's the FBI. It was an independent news person who happened to be there filming. And that's all fortunate that police were there and the film crew was there. The FBI put out a statement. I forget the gentleman's name. He said, "Listen, we searched this area several weeks ago. It was underwater." There have been numerous people who have said this area was waist deep in water. I think every searcher who was out
waist deep in water. It's not like it took
with firsthand knowledge.
See that right there is another red flag. Waist deep in water. Okay, waist deep. It's not like it takes divers to search in waist deep water. You put on some. What do you call those things that the fishermen wear, man? They're like the whatever. I guess I don't know what they're called, but they're like the overalls that are like waterproof, right? And you get in there and they look around. Put on a mask and a snorkel, stick your head underneath, and you look, right? Move this out of the way, move that out of the way. I'm not a professional searcher, you know what I'm saying? But come on, that's common sense. Lawyer said earlier today that they trusted LEFBI to do their job, so they don't need to go earlier. They told them where to search. Okay, they told them where to search, but really? But why didn't they find anything then? Because it was waist deep in water? Give me a break, dude. Waist deep? Give me a break. Come on. Hey, whatever, dude. Listen, meth gators are a thing, okay? All right? Just ask the sheriff that made that public statement a few years ago, letting us know. What's up, Hammer Magic? Dirty laundry suck more than my brand new shark vacuum. Yeah, at least your brand new shark vacuum is useful. Chest waders, that's what they're called. Thank you very much. Meth gators, for sure. Meth gators, totally.
Conditions of that park have said that this was under 2 to 3 feet of water, and yet still
2 to 3 feet of water.
Can't get it in their head that these areas were inaccessible, and
inaccessible
that were located today, or I should say yesterday, perhaps couldn't be seen. So we're not just saying it. I'm not just saying it. The FBI is saying it. Everyone is saying it, and yet these platforms are still running amok with these ludicrous.
Good night, Kelsey.
And I have to say, you know, nonsensical theories of the parents planting things there. I mean, enough is enough.
Steve, you know,
when does it stop? When do people?
Yeah, we are here today, though, because of the disappearance of Gabby Petito and ultimately her death. You know, the Petito family has been very critical of the Laundrie. So I want to play you a short clip of the Petito family.
Yeah, see, I'm digging this guy so far. All right. Yeah, this guy needs to ask the difficult questions. He's got this guy up here. Ask him the difficult question.
Reaction on the other end.
I believe they know probably, if not everything, they know most of the information.
Absolutely.
I would love to just face to face ask, why are you doing this? And just tell me the truth.
This family, you're representing them. How would you describe the Laundrie's interaction with law enforcement?
So, as I mentioned a couple of times today to other news organizations, today is not the day to discuss the Gabby Petito case. I understand that was the impetus, that is the reason why all this is happening. But that doesn't explain why people come up with these nonsensical theories as to yesterday's event.
Oh, this dude is. Hold on a second, man. It's been a long time, guys. I got to be honest with you. Let me do this real quick. It's been a minute since I heard somebody say something that I was listening to here that genuinely made my body hot from anger. That just now happened. This guy just straight up goes, yeah, I understand that this is all started because of Gabby and her going missing and being murdered. But that's not what this is about. What do you mean this is not what this is about? It's still, that's still what this is about. No matter what you say, no matter what goes on, that's exactly what this is about. And you're not going to not make it about that. Now, you could have some grounds to not make it about that had the family been cooperative, had Brian been cooperative, had they not put the Petitos and the Schmitts through hell, through hell in these last few weeks. How dare this guy say these things? How dare this guy go on national television on NBC News and tell America that this isn't about Gabby?
And some other events. It doesn't explain, Tom, why major news organizations just yesterday on Fox News, an anchor was accusing me of communicating with Brian with a burner phone until his solar power ran out and I could no longer communicate. That was from an anchor. You had pundits on CNN just last night with all kinds of theories. So my anger and my frustration, and when I say when does it stop, what I'm saying is, when does it stop that these conjecturists, these theorists, people who have no firsthand knowledge, and specifically with yesterday's events, you have people with firsthand knowledge telling you how this played out, and yet people still don't believe it. So I'm going to focus on that. I'm not going
I
to
hear
talk
you.
about the Petito family. They suffered. No, Tom, let me finish.
Yeah.
They suffered a
This
great
guy.
loss. And on September 14th, when I first went on video, I said there are two families here that have suffered a great tragedy. There are two young people that have now lost their lives.
Look at my man's face right here, bro. I love this guy's face, bro. Like, you could tell he's just as mad as I am. He's just like really, bro. He's got this frozen look of really, bro, going on. That's what my man is doing right now. He's got resting really, bro face syndrome. That's what he's got going on right now. And I don't blame him in the slightest.
Parents that are suffering. Now, I understand that. Whatever happened or whatever didn't happen, whatever people know, this is tragic for two families. And anybody with a child and anybody with a sense of...
Let me explain something to you, dirtbag lawyer. Let me explain something to you. It's tragic for only the Petitos and the Schmitz, and I'll tell you why. The only reason it's tragic for them and not the Laundries is because of how the Laundries have carried themselves this entire time under your advice. Under your advice. You don't have a right to sit up here and be mad at the media or at the public. You don't have a right to sit here and be mad at us because we demand answers, because we demand justice. And we demand justice, not just for Gabby, we demand justice mostly for the Schmitz and the Petitos. And you're up here trying to take away that acknowledgement. You're trying to steer the sympathy onto the Laundries when they've done nothing to earn it. You think losing a son that they covered for murdering a young girl that lived in their house, driving her van back home without her and not giving law enforcement anything to work on or work with, I should say, on top of the fact that they completely and totally stonewalled and blew off the Schmitz and the Petitos when they just wanted some answers. They just wanted some cooperation. And you're going to have the audacity to sit up here on national television and act like they deserve some sort of sympathy because they lost a murderer for a son? A coward? A woman beating coward who most likely took his own life because he couldn't face the consequences. Nah, man. Nah. And what's funny is I was actually a little conflicted. Before I was listening to this dude talk, I was a little conflicted as to how I was supposed to feel about the Laundries. Like I was digging deep for some empathy for them. This guy just blew that. Shut up, Jerry. But he screwed it up. He totally screwed it up.
Humanity can understand the frustration that both families feel.
Steve, on that point, though, I hear you. I hear you on that point, though. You mentioned a date.
Take control of your interview. Good man.
Do you wish you would have helped police out a little bit more early on in the investigation? Because Northport Police, to be completely fair, had to tweet at you on September 15th, days after Gabby Petito was already reported missing. Do you wish you would have maybe worked with police a little earlier in this investigation?
So, Tom, I have to tell you once again, I represent the Laundrie family. I'm an attorney. Communications I have with Brian, communications I had and have with Chris and Roberta are confidential. What I wish really doesn't play into it. What I can tell you is, at some point in the future,
this guy had to go off camera. Look at that. He had to go off camera because he's so pissed.
Tonight is not that time. You know, this case is not over. I have yet to speak to FBI
Damn
personnel.
right it's
I
not
have yet
over.
to speak to Northport Police. I have yet to speak to the Assistant U.S. Attorney, Ms. Romine, out in Wyoming. There are certain things that need to be done, and I should say wrapped up, before we can have further conversations of what may or may not have been done differently.
Steve, do you think your clients, the Laundries, Brian's parents, will eventually be charged with crimes?
I have no reason to believe that.
There's been some speculation out there, and again, I understand you don't like to talk about speculation, that maybe some type of deal was cut, that they promised to cooperate with investigators to get some type of immunity. Any truth to that?
I can tell you no, there's no truth to that.
DeMarie.
What I can tell you is that conversations were had several weeks ago with the FBI with respect to certain charges. When questioned and when communications were had between myself and the FBI, I think it was realized that charges were not appropriate. There was never a threat. There was never a coercion. There was never a deal cut. But
we're talking about misdemeanor charges?
Would not have been...
Steve, misdemeanor or felony charges?
I don't know what level of crime or charge was in the mix. What I can tell you is...
What do you mean? You're their lawyer. What do you mean? You're the one person that would know.
Want to be clear. There was no threat. There was no coercion on behalf of the FBI. There was no deals. There were certainly conversations, as one would expect happens in every criminal case. You always have conversations with the prosecutors about how the case may play out, as to what may be on the table, so to speak. Yes, those conversations were had, but no deal was cut. The Laundries have been cooperating with law enforcement,
no, they haven't,
locally and federally,
no, they
since
haven't.
day one with respect to
Liar.
Brian.
And explain to our viewers,
the Petito case.
Yeah, if you can explain to our viewers, because we've heard from so many people over the last several weeks on this case, but we've never heard from the Laundries, and there's a reason for that, correct?
Absolutely. And I've said several times, I said it over a month ago, the reason you haven't heard from the Laundries is because I told them not to talk to anybody. I've taken the heat on that. I've accepted the heat on that. And as I've said,
yeah, you're really
night,
accepting
it
right now.
Any attorney, any defense attorney, and anybody who went to law school will tell you the same thing.
No, they won't.
You do not talk under any circumstances. And any pundit who goes on TV and says, oh,
okay, I'm not a lawyer, and I don't really know what a lawyer would say in that situation, but I feel like a lawyer would at least somehow, if I were an ethical lawyer, put it that way, okay? If I were an ethical lawyer, I would like to think that I would say, listen, it's probably a good look if you make a public statement. Real easy. Zoom, StreamYard, YouTube, turn off comments. Just make a quick video and put it out there. Not even Zoom, YouTube, nothing. Just take your iPhone, hit record video, make a certain statement, and release it to the press. Simple. Our sympathies go out to the Petitos and the Schmitz. Brian, if you're out there, we're worried about you. Please come home. But no, nothing to that effect. Nothing. If I were an ethical lawyer, I would say, okay, do that. And I would even type it up for them. I would write it for them. I'd get my paralegal to do it or whatever. I'd be like, here, listen, read this and put it out there. Try not to act like you're reading too much. At least. Not, hey, no, don't talk to anybody. Don't say a word. It's ridiculous.
Have a law degree and this is immoral and unethical. You know what? You are wrong. This is the job and the role of a defense attorney. You tell your client, do not talk to law enforcement. Period. End of story.
If they did something wrong, yeah.
Did your clients know their son, Brian Laundrie, was going to disappear when he left the house that day?
Did you guys catch that right there? He just said not even 60 seconds ago that from the beginning, the Laundries have been cooperating with law enforcement, with the FBI and local law enforcement agencies. He just said that. Just now. He just said this.
No, they don't. This is the job and the role of a defense attorney. You tell your client, do not talk to law enforcement.
Do not talk to
Period.
law
End of story.
enforcement. Do not
Did
talk
your
to law
clients know their son,
enforcement.
Brian Laundrie, was going to disappear when he left the house that day?
He's a liar.
No, they did not. What I can tell you is that Brian was very upset when he left, and Chris conveyed to me several times that, he wished he didn't let him go, but he couldn't stop him. So this has been a painful saga for them since September 13th. It's been a long haul. But
Yeah,
Brian
I bet,
is a grown man, young man.
I bet covering
22
from your for your murderous son is definitely stressful. I get it.
years old. He wanted to walk out the door. He was entitled to walk out the door.
You know the Laundries personally. You've known them for several years. You've said that tonight here on Top Story. I want to ask you, what do you want America to know about the Laundries, and is there something they should know about them as parents?
I would like America to know that exactly what you said. Chris and Roberta Laundrie are parents. They are just people. They have feelings.
That's debatable.
They have children.
That's also
One
debatable.
of their children have just been confirmed as dead. It's sad under any circumstances. Gabby Petito notwithstanding, for any family, for any parent out there, this is a loss of a loved one. They're grieving. I would just respectfully ask people outside their home,
Respectfully
go home,
ask.
give it a break, get a good night's sleep, leave the Laundries alone, even for one night. Please and thank you.
Do you see any scenario where the Laundries eventually reach out to the Petitos, to Gabby's family?
As I said to you a moment ago, Tom, there are certain things that need to be, I'll use the term.
I hope
wrapped
there's
up.
triple the
There are
amount of people in
conversations
front of
need
that
to be had.
house now that
When those
this
conversations
was
are had,
this was released.
perhaps at some point in the future, there will be, communication between the two families. I've communicated with Mr. Stafford in the past, the Petito family attorney. I'm sure he and I will be having conversations coming forward. And, what comes of those conversations will remain to be seen.
Steve, we thank you for your time. I thank you for answering all of our questions tonight here on Top Story.
Tom, I thank you for having me here.
Cut him off.
Thanks for watching our YouTube
It's
channel.
like,
Follow
yeah,
today's
whatever,
top
shut up.
stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.
Okay, Look, says, I will be honest, I don't like people in front of the house yelling and causing a disturbance not due to the Laundries, but the other neighbors who did nothing wrong. I mean, yeah, I agree with that. I agree with that to a certain degree, but I mean, it just is what it is. Like, if I was one of their neighbors, I'd be like, this sucks, but I would understand it happening, I'd probably just join the party. You know what I mean? If I was one of the neighbors, I'd just be like, well, screw it. You know what I mean? Like, if I can't beat them, I'll join them, instead of like letting it bug me. I'm just going to get out there and just put the pressure on them, even help put the pressure on them. At least I'd like to think I would. Yeah, I get that too. I get that too. And those are horrible circumstances. But, why aren't the Laundries taking her into consideration? Why aren't the Laundries taking the fact that there's somebody next door battling cancer and they're stonewalling and their excuse making for their son is being disruptive to their whole neighborhood? I think that they're accountable for everything that's going on. I don't think it's fair to blame the protesters. They're exercising their First Amendment right because they want justice. Who else is fighting for the Petitos and the Schmitz? Who else is fighting for them? I mean, Billie Jean, that's one way to look at it. Okay, you're saying that was a waste of an interview. That's one way to look at it, sure. But I don't think so much. You know, I don't really feel that way. I feel as though we got to see really where this guy is coming from. And here he is, make no mistake. He is representing, he is speaking for the Laundries. So it's fair to say that whatever his feelings are their feelings. They've chosen to employ him as their voice. Have they not? So now we really have confirmation as to where their hearts are and where they're coming from. That's a dog, Liz. That's a big dog too. Mr. Harlan in here acted a fool. What's going on, Mr. Harlan? Yeah. Yeah, this guy has yet to say anything worthwhile at all. Nothing sympathetic or empathetic at all whatsoever. He gets up here and he goes, "This isn't about Gabby." He straight up said that. He said, "This isn't about Gabby. With respect, this isn't about Gabby." What do you mean this isn't about Gabby? This has always been about Gabby. You're not going to make it something about anybody else but Gabby. You're not going to do that. To those of us with common sense, you know, take that over to Critical Cankles, you know, and those people, to the true crime people, okay? Because over here in real crime, we use our common sense, we use our eyes, okay? And we understand the fact that you suck. We understand the fact that you are basically trying to do exactly what Brian would try to do, exactly what an abusive, narcissistic prick would do, which is try to make this all about himself. And here you are doing that for him beyond the grave, making this all about him for him. Cherry, it's okay. Typos happen. Cherry means to say real crime. Yeah, and it's not going to stop being about Gabby. I don't care what this fool says. I don't care what this fool says. This guy is making me hate lawyers that much more. He's absolutely doing that. He's making me hate lawyers that much more. Can one of my mods find that and send that to me, please? There's a News Nation interview with him. Is that true? This guy, man, he's pulling a Trump, blaming the media for everything. It's like, no, dude. The media is not doing nothing except shining light and putting pressure on your clients for acting like soulless monsters. I don't know, man. I think I might have to Oakleaf tonight. I think I might just have to. Check the nth troll. It's okay. It's Cherry Appreciation Day, people. More cherry emojis in the chat for me, please. Come on, y'all. She's the best. Blast the chat with the cherry emojis. Because it's Cherry Appreciation Day. She loves it. She loves it. Cherry can't get enough of the attention. I'm telling you guys. She absolutely loves it. She's so grateful. All right.
Case unfolds, starting with Gabby's disappearance. I think everyone understands your client's right to stay silent, to not talk. That silence does not presume guilt. However, in the court of public opinion, the last few weeks have been difficult. Legally, I understand that argument, but ethically, did they ever consider reaching out to the Petitos, reaching out to law enforcement in help finding Gabby?
Unfortunately, Marnie, I can't have that conversation with you at this time.
Why is that?
I just can't. It's not the appropriate time to have that conversation.
But it's an ethical conversation, not just for the parents of Brian,
Yes, it
but
is.
for you as an attorney. At any point when they were searching for Gabby, did
Get
you
'em.
feel the need, compelled to help?
I can tell you that at this moment in time, Chris and Roberta Laundrie just learned that their son's remains were identified. He is now no longer with them. At some point in time in the future, there may be more information as what I felt, what the Laundries felt, what we, quote, ethically, thought about the case. Now is not the time to do that. You've asked me the question 2 or 3 times. I'm going to respectfully tell you again, it's not the time to discuss that.
Have the Laundries
When
reached
is?
out to the Petito family at all? And has the Petito family reached out to them in recent days?
The Laundrie family has not reached out to the Petitos, and to my knowledge, the Petitos have not reached out to the Laundries.
What are the Laundries' plans
Wow.
now?
At the moment, they're going to grieve their son.
And then what?
And then what?
Monty, I don't mean to be rude, and I know you have a job to do. They were just told less than a half hour ago that their son is deceased. Do you think that they really have thoughts on anything other than that their son is no longer with them?
No, and I respect their privacy, and I can't begin to imagine the pain that they're going through. I just know that so many of us have questions about what has happened, not just to Gabby, but to Brian. The nation has been watching this search for him, what turned into a manhunt across the country. And so we are curious. We want answers. You're the closest to the family, and I want to know how they're doing. I want to know what their plans are.
Monty, I don't have any information on the plans that the Laundries have. And I want to tell you, because I've got to stop myself, I'm taking some of my anger and frustration out on you. As you may know, I knew Brian Laundrie since he was an infant, since he was a small child.
Then why didn't you do anything to save his
I've
life?
shed a tear or two today as well. I've shared that with the Laundries.
See, I find that interesting. Why didn't he do anything to save his life? Why didn't he encourage him to turn himself in? Because again, people, we now have confirmation. We now have confirmation that my theory, as well as John Walsh's and anybody else with common sense in the real crime community, know that he would have been safer in the custody of law enforcement, facing the charges for using Gabby's credit card. He would have been safer with law enforcement. If he would have encouraged him to turn himself in, if he would have encouraged Roberta and Chris to plead for his safe return, he would still be alive today. I truly believe that. So you don't get to sit here and act like, oh, well, I knew him since he was an infant and I'm heartbroken and I'm angry at you. Get the fuck, come on, man.
The fact that the public is continuing this nonsensical, we're hiding him in the beginning, we've fed him food, we've communicated with him, and every platform, because you hear that if you have a platform, you should use it for the good. You respect that they have the right to remain silent, but there are people in your position, maybe not you, but in your position, that never once pushed back on these so-called experts.
Innocent people wouldn't have clammed up.
Who did nothing but say, this is immoral, this is unethical. Somewhere along the line, somebody with a platform, someone in your position should have said, hey, you know what? Back off. This is America, and in our system of justice, they have the right to remain silent. So I'm kind of a little perturbed that now I have to go back.
Who cares how
and explain
perturbed you are?
How we didn't plant remains and personal items in a preserve when the upper echelons of law enforcement is telling everyone this is legit by their actions, by their words, and yet we have to now go back and somehow educate John Q. public. And you guys perpetrate this. You put it forth. And
well, I'm going to stop you right there. I have said a number of times that the Laundrie parents have every right to remain silent, whether the public agrees with that right or not. But our search is for answers, and that is where it will continue to lie. Answers not only in what
like
happened
a journalist,
to your client, Brian Laundrie, and what happens with his parents moving forward, but also what happened to Gabby. And there are many who are concerned that we may never know what happened in this case, given what has transpired today.
As I've said now for probably the fourth or fifth time, today is not the day to discuss that.
You know what I want to ask you? I want to ask
then
you, Mr. Bertolino, you mentioned that you have known Brian for years. That is one thing that we have not been able to get much on in the last month and a half. Who is Brian Laundrie? What kind of person was he? What do you know about him that you're willing to share?
Marnie, I know him as the child of a friend of mine. I didn't
so you
go
don't
to school
know
with him. I didn't hang out with him. He's 30 years my junior. So to ask me what type of person he is, I'm sure he was a good kid, just like every parent says.
A good kid who beats his woman and strangles her to death. Right. Gotcha.
I'm pretty much, how shall I say, not going to discuss anything further other than what type of child Brian was, other than to say Brian is no longer with us. The family is mourning, and I would hope that we could, let them mourn, let them grieve, and maybe somebody besides myself could come out and say, hey, protesters, go away tonight. Could you do that?
No.
I just have a couple more questions. Have you spoken with Cassie?
Not today, but I have spoken with her and Jim recently, yes.
Do you plan to continue to represent the family moving forward, and do you see a need for that?
I will be representing the family as long as it's necessary.
Anything else you'd like to share and clarify about what has happened?
Dude, they should fire him.
I just want to apologize
the
to you as an
Laundrie
individual
should fire this guy.
for my anger and frustration, but I've been dealing with this all day, and I put out some statements that this is nonsense, and to hear it come from a platform like yours, that the question is even posed. I get that the internet is a whole different world, that the Twitter world and the people who play in that world, I understand that they may have a need for this, but for more respectable organizations to do the same thing, I find troubling.
What do you find so troubling about the public's curiosity and search for answers?
Curiosity and search for answers is one thing. Coming up with completely off the charts in the scheme of reality, propositions of literally.
All right, let me shut this guy up for a second here real quick because I need a break from him. But let me address what he's talking about real quick, because what he's doing is he's criticizing people for speculating, right? Drawing wild conclusions, right? Well, guess what? What caused that? This is the one case, guys. I've said this before. This is the one case where I actually almost encourage it to a certain degree. Now, obviously, you know, obviously, I don't believe in speculation that could be hurtful, but in this case, I don't see it being hurtful, or at least not rightfully hurtful in some way, shape, or form, because they completely and totally stonewalled the public, but most importantly, the Petitos and the Schmidts. Most importantly. So if you're not going to give them answers, well, guess what? You don't get to whine when the public starts drawing their own conclusions and creating their own answers, because the public will naturally do that, you twit. That is what the public will naturally do every time. And to sit up here and complain and whine about it as if you didn't see it coming is mind-blowing to me.
Planting evidence, planting articles, even planting the remains, it's just beyond, it's beyond compare.
I mean, I agree with him there. Planting the remains.
So just one more thing about that, and I promise I will let it go. Did your clients go out to the reserve prior to yesterday morning on their own at any time?
Yes, they did. Back in early September, I shouldn't say early September, mid-September, which would have been the 14th and the 15th.
Were they there with Brian or with authorities?
No, they were there on their own. That was the day after Brian had went for the hike and didn't come home.
And what did they do there?
They walked around the trails looking for Brian initially.
Is this when they picked up the car?
On the second day, they picked up the car, correct.
Okay, so they walked around looking for him, and they walked around looking for him. They didn't find him, right? Now, it is possible. I don't want this to be dismissed, guys, because it is possible that they went looking for him that initial time, but they didn't see him. He probably could have been off on some hike, and they couldn't find him, and they didn't see him. And then later on, coming back, and returning, well, then they find his body, and it's weeks later. Fair enough. But it still doesn't explain why. The items that were found under 2 to 3 feet of water weren't found initially. It doesn't make sense. Found by professional searchers, search teams, professionals. And just because they were under 2-3 feet of water, you're saying that that's unsearchable? That's unattainable in some way, shape, or form? Get out of my face with that.
Did they find any items or anything that led them to believe that he was out there at that time?
Beside the car? No.
All right, Mr. Bertolino, we appreciate your time. I know this is a difficult
Maggie
day
G.
for many,
that.
including you. We thank you for giving us a moment to talk about it.
Monty, once again, I want to apologize to you because I don't mean to take my frustration out on you.
Yeah, you do.
You are the first person I've spoken to since I've learned the news. And, I'm upset. I'm angry.
It's all about you,
for
right?
The last 4
all
hours
about
I've been
you.
dealing with, I have to just call it nonsense.
Well, I'd like to extend an invitation to you to come back on when you're ready to share more, and also to Brian Laundrie's parents when they're ready.
Good enough, Monty. Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you.
Good enough. Good enough, Monty. Have a good evening. That's the worst. All right, so hold on. I think I might have. Sorry, guys. I'm trying to find some. Oh, I think I was that part 2 that I played. Yeah, I think that was part 2 that I played. All right. So let's since we're just gluttons for punishment here, and we love to be mad at this guy, I'm just gonna keep it going. Yeah. This guy is he's so grief stricken about a kid he doesn't even know, but he's known since he was an infant, but he doesn't even know him, but he's so grief stricken. I already watched. Didn't I already do that? Hold on. Hold on. I think it's coming through now. It should just take a second. We got a very, very slow computer here. Here we go.
News today, and the remains have been identified. Tell
All
us
right.
what
So
you
I
know.
played order.
Just a short while ago, I confirmed with Chris and Roberta Laundrie that representatives from the Northport Police Department visited their home and advised them that the remains were positively identified as those of Brian.
Have they been asked to identify the remains in person?
No, they have not. We had previously provided items for DNA testing and confirmation, and my understanding is that is what was used to identify the remains.
Under the circumstances, I think, first of all, this is difficult news for any parent to receive. How are your clients doing?
I've been using the word distraught for the last couple of days now, and they're extremely
And you're
upset.
making it a cliche, by the way,
For some
because
unknown reason,
nobody
there
believes
are
it.
still people outside of their home, yelling and screaming and causing a ruckus.
They sure are.
Which any parent that's grieving the loss of a child should not have to deal with that.
This has been a difficult few weeks for so many.
So, I went over some footage of because we all know Molly Golightly went down there and she made a big scene, something that I wouldn't do. But here's the thing about that. Am I praising her for doing it? No, I think it's pretty funny. The footage that I showed, I laugh thinking about it, but do I think it's also funny that I can imagine what it's like to be the Laundries and have Molly Golightly of all people screaming and yelling outside in front of their front yard? I mean, they totally deserve it. They totally deserve it. And in no way, shape, or form am I criticizing Molly Golightly for doing what she's doing. But I think it's hilarious. Like, I could just imagine Chris Laundrie just sitting there going, God, who is that insufferable woman? It just makes me laugh, man. It just makes me laugh. Like, you're just God knows what. I mean, that is the audible equivalent to having a tomato thrown in your face. It is the I swear, it's just so funny to me. So, like, I mean, do I encourage her to do it? Not really. Am I glad that it's happening to the Laundries? Yeah, totally. And I realize I'm getting some, people are like, man, but they just lost their son. Where's your empathy for when they just lost their son? They had a hand in losing their son. I don't care what you think. I don't care what you say. They didn't do anything to encourage him to come home and turn himself in. The alternative was to be in law enforcement's custody safely. That was the alternative. Yeah, they lost their son, but they should have played that better. They should have not listened to this idiot. They should have listened to their parental instincts over this idiot. And maybe their son would still be alive. Maybe they'd get to talk to him through a glass window and a phone.
Families, the Petitos as well. Do your clients understand the focus and attention on them?
Of course they understand.
Of course they
And
understand.
It's been,
that's kind of a dumb question.
how should I say? It's been very difficult to bear.
Many have asked why they got a lawyer, why they hired you.
And
What do you mean, and? That's a question.
I'm sorry,
it's a
you cut
legit
out
question.
there. I'm going to ask that again. Why did your clients lawyer up?
you used the term lawyer up. I've been a friend of Chris Laundrie for over 25 years. And when I got a phone call from Chris advising me that he was getting some inquiries from law enforcement, he asked me if I could assist him. And of course, I was more than glad to do so.
At any point in the last 5 weeks, have you spoken with Brian Laundrie?
Yes, I spoke to Brian Laundrie on September 12th and September 13th.
And what can you share about that conversation?
Not much. Any conversation I had with Brian Laundrie is privileged. I can tell you that Chris and Roberta have been worried about Brian Laundrie since Brian went out for the hike.
Oh, Island Girl,
Monday.
thank you. I appreciate that.
From there, there's been a lot of speculation, a lot of accusations, a lot of news outfits have proliferated that misinformation. And I firmly believe that's why these protesters are out there, because this has just become a circus, which there was no need for it to be that way.
Did you ever see Brian Laundrie in person when he returned to Florida?
Do I agree with you whether or not it's become a circus? Yes, I agree with you. It has become a circus. Did it need to become that way? Yes, it needed to become that way. Why? Because your clients suck.
I did not.
And when was the last time his parents saw him before he went hiking?
The morning he left for the hike.
Have you believed over the last few weeks that he was alive?
We were hopeful that he was alive because we had not heard from him and there was no sign of him after all of the search efforts that law enforcement had made. Obviously, each passing day and week.
Then why didn't they publicly plead for his safe return? If you thought he was alive, if you hoped and had that and thought that there was a chance that he was alive, why didn't the family publicly plead for his safe return?
We understood that there might be a grim reality coming in the future. Those were confirmed today.
Did Brian's parents share with you? Did he share a plan with them?
A plan for what?
A plan for what he was going to do.
His plan was to go out for a hike and absorb the fresh air, what I understand.
Was Brian in communication with his parents after he left the house
Dude,
on
this
cell
guy
phone or in any
sucks.
other way?
No, he was not. I believe that was clarified, that Brian had left his cell phone at home.
Did Brian have
And yet-
any way to communicate?
And yet,
Just this comment real quick. Megan G, it's not a question of whether or not I think it would have worked. That's not the point that I'm making. But if you're a parent, then you would understand that, I mean, me as a parent, right? I know that I would be doing everything that I can to preserve my son's life. What's the point of hiring this lawyer if not to protect him, right? So why would they not at least try is the point. Why didn't they at least try? It's not a question of whether or not it would have worked. It's a question of why didn't they at least try?
excuse me, Monty, and yet the news outlets, indeed Fox News just yesterday, had an anchor and pundits on their air setting forth how the Laundrie parents.
This guy's pulling a Trump, sitting there blaming the media for everything.
Burner phones with Brian over the last several weeks.
But, you know,
Well, I think there's a lot of
Trump's
questions.
argument was more
There's a lot
valid.
of questions
Not saying
that
it was
everyone
valid. I'm
has.
just
So my
saying it was
question to you
more
is, have you
valid than that.
communicated with Brian at any point after you spoke with him on the phone on the 12th and 13th?
No, I haven't.
Did you know where he was?
I knew that he went to the reserve.
Let's talk about the reserve. A lot of people can't wrap their minds around the fact that the reserve had been searched week after week, was reopened to the public, and then less than 24 hours, the parents went out there. What did they share with you about their reasoning for going out there and why they knew specifically where to go?
You know, Marnie, as I've stated several times yesterday and now throughout today, you know, it's not about knowing specifically where to go. The park was just recently opened. I believe it was Tuesday or Wednesday that the park was open. Chris and Roberta wanted to go in the park again to search for their son. Specifically where to go was start at the beginning. And as has been, how shall I say, confirmed, both with a news reporter and with the police department and the FBI being present, they started at the beginning of the preserve. It just so happened that that's where Brian was. So my thought would be anybody who's questioning that, it's not too bright.
Really?
Well,
No, the fact that you're sitting here trying to make us out to be like we're not too bright, but you expect us to believe that Brian decided, hey, you know what? I just strangled my girlfriend. I lawyered up. Great outdoors is what I need right now. Just some fresh air. Just a leisurely stroll. Come on, man. Come on, man. You expect us to believe that?
clarify that, because I think no one has the answers here. Certainly the public doesn't. You have more answers than most. We assume that the parents knew more than we do. So clarify what the public doesn't understand about what's going on.
What the public doesn't understand, I don't understand. You have a trailhead. The trailhead marks the beginning of a trail. You don't jump from the sky and land in the middle of the preserve. You start at the trailhead. That's where the parents started. The parents walked into the park from the entrance to the park or the trailhead. They went about a mile or so, and that's where they found the items and the remains. What is so difficult to understand about that?
Well, I think it's hard to grapple with the fact that the reserve.
See, Megan G, you're saying, I think he went there with the intent to unalive himself. See, I think that the parents know that he went there with the intent to unalive himself. That's what I think. Because their actions dictate that. Why wouldn't they plead for his safe return in the first place? Right? Why did they just act this whole time like everything was over? Why did Chris Petito, or oh, Jesus, I'm so sorry I messed that up. No disrespect to the Petitos. Excuse me. Why did Chris Laundrie throw a conniption fit in his front yard over a sign that said, "What if it was Cassie?" See, I think he already knew. That's what I think.
Had been searched so extensively by FBI professionals over the last 4 or 5 weeks, and they hadn't come across anything. And then all of a sudden, we have several items and human remains. I think that's what people aren't fully understanding, the timing of that.
So once again, I don't understand what the public doesn't understand. Everyone from the FBI to local enforcement to news reporters to the Laundrie family has confirmed that area of the park was underwater. I am told that it was waist deep at some times. So from
you act like that's deep, though.
Being completely underwater, when
it doesn't even take a diver
through there
to search waist deep. What are you
find?
talking about?
Now that the water has receded, the woods off the trail are more accessible. It's not very difficult because it's very simple. And the public doesn't understand simplicity or the truth. You want to make something of it. And when I say
No.
you, I don't mean you particular, I mean the public.
So walk us through the phone.
Real crime YouTubers knew better, because since I started this channel, I've been using the term Occam's razor. Coincidentally, and I mean coincidentally, Dad Challenge Podcast employed the term Occam's razor in order to think critically when speculating on these things. So the fact of the matter is those of us with common sense already employ this concept when we're thinking critically.
Call that you got from the Laundries was this Tuesday night. They said, we want to go back out to the reserve. What was that conversation like, and what did they tell you?
So to be clear, I talk with the Laundries at least twice a day for the last month. And when I spoke with them on Tuesday evening, Chris informed me that he wanted to go to the reserve on Wednesday with Roberta. They wanted to know if I thought that was a good idea. We talked about it. I said, it absolutely is a good idea, and it's fine, you should go. But are you concerned about being followed by the press? They indicated to me that they were concerned about the press, but they were willing to deal with it.
Yeah, they're concerned about the press, but they're more concerned about being followed by law enforcement.
As they've been dealing with it. I said, I think it's a good idea to notify law enforcement, and I did so through a text message to my
Real
contact
crime, Jerry Cates,
at the Northport Police Department.
Real crime.
The responsive text message was a very short, thank you for the heads up. Wednesday morning, when Chris and Roberta were at the preserve at 7 a.m., law enforcement was there respectfully to accompany them. And what I was told afterwards, that their main purpose or concern was that the press didn't harass the Laundries through the preserve.
Did they ask you to contact the police?
No, they did not. Obviously, it was something that I suggested, and it's a good thing that we did. It's imagine what the public would be thinking if the police weren't there. Imagine what the public would be thinking if a lot of this wasn't caught on video. And still, with an independent reporter and a representative of law enforcement from a local agency, a representative from the FBI being present, and you still have these nonsensical people putting forth ideas that certain items were planted.
You've called that hogwash. You've called the suggestion that items were planted were hogwash. Why is that?
True crime is hogwash.
Sorry, we were speaking
Real
over
crime
one
is where it's
another.
at.
Can you repeat that?
Yes,
Hashtag
of
real
course.
crime.
You have suggested that any claims that the Laundries planted
Real crime.
items in the reserve is hogwash. Why?
Marnie, I thought I was very clear in just explaining to you why. If you've got the FBI, the local PD, an independent news reporter, all there at the same time seeing the same thing, you've got quote unquote surveillance of the Laundries 24/7 by protesters and people of the press. When
Real
did you
crime.
think these items were planted? And do you really think the Laundries had skeletal remains of their son, in a plastic bag and brought them to the preserve? Do you realize how ludicrous that is? How aggravating, how maddening it is to even hear those things? And the fact that it's being put out there by the press as well, that's where my level of frustration and anger is coming from. Maybe somebody with a platform should step up and say, hey, knock it off. This is just silly. So if I'm the only one who has to say that this is hogwash because I didn't want to say
Nobody cares,
the word
bro.
bullshit, then I'm going to say it. It's bull. And
Wow.
I'm sorry if John Q. Public doesn't get that.
Okay. Wow. Powerful words. Not really. Not really. Guys, so here's what we're going to do. We're going to close this out with another blast in the chat of cherry emojis. Hashtag real crime. Make sure you add a hashtag real crime for Cherry, okay? Because she's the best mod in the world. All right, guys. I want y'all to blast the chat. Cherry emojis with a hashtag real crime. Do it, 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 do it. She's amazing. She deserves it. She's fantastic. She's my right hand. I love her very much. Yes, Shelly. That's what I'm talking about. That's what I'm talking about. Just like that. Just like that. All right, guys. I'm totally. You do not. You love me. Stop it. Stop it. See, there we go. Amethyst. There we go. No, thank you, Lori Barlow. I had a great time. There we go. Let's go, Blues. All right, guys. I love you. We will do this again very soon, my friends.